Hello there, lovely good afternoon, and welcome to Saturday edition of the Lunchtime Cafe right here on Camnet TV. Remember, you are watching us live on DSTV and GoTV Plus. We are live on our Facebook page, which is Camnet TV. Search for the page, like it, and be sure to leave us a comment. Interesting topic coming your way. We are discussing how to improve the Zambian economy. Also, how can citizens be empowered, and how can we as a country benefit from the natural resources through the mining sector. So our topic of discussion this afternoon is the state of the economy and the mining sector. My name is Joe Smarter, and to help me discuss this very important topic, I have on set Mr. FABIAN CHEWE. He is the Information and Publicity Secretary of the Federation of Small-Scale Miners Association of Zambia, or in Zambia, if you like. Mr. CHEWE, good to see you and welcome.
The pleasure is mine. Thanks a lot.
Okay, I got that Federation of Small-Scale Miners in Zambia. That's correct, right?
F.S.S.M.A.Z, yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into it, Mr. CHEWE. A lot has been said from different sectors of society, and your federation also wants to add a voice on this very important topic, the status of the economy and the mining sector. Let's begin. How can the citizens of Zambia in general benefit and maximize from the natural resources that we have as a country?
That's a very good starting point. And maybe just put in context the Federation of Small-Scale Miners. So this is an umbrella body that represents the interests of all small-scale miners, artisanal miners, small-scale miners in Zambia, which we call the SM.
Okay.
Yes. So this predominantly is a sector that is doing mining on a small scale, but the number of these mines are actually outweigh or outnumber the number of large-scale miners in Zambia. But though our focus has been the concentration of big mines that are mining copper in this country, but the small-scale miners who are mining gemstones, who are actually in the industrial business of mining other quarry and all these, they are also not captured in this bracket that we are talking about. So small-scale mining in Zambia actually is an umbrella body that looks at all these small-scale miners in Zambia, which is F.S.M.A.Z, and bring them into this bracket whereby we can begin to have a conversation with the government on how best we can improve mining in this country.
Okay, and having given that particular background, when you look at Zambia, which is endowed with so many natural resources, name any mineral, you find that it is here, right here in Zambia. How can citizens now begin to benefit and maximize from these natural resources?
Yes, that's a very good question. The first thing that one has to start with is, first of all, is a policy framework. The policy framework and the legal framework that is put in place. Because for people to benefit, which we may call beneficiation, but to have active participation in the running of the country, first of all, government has come up with a policy. The policy framework that encompasses, which is wide-ranging, wide-encompassing, where every citizen has a chance to participate, and create a legal framework that which is not as good, which doesn't have stringent measures, which make it easy for people to participate in the economic life of their countries. So we talk of natural resources, they are various. We talk of minerals as part of the resource, land as part of resource, tourism as part of an area that touches resources, agriculture. So there are so many fields, the energy sector, so many resources that we have in the country. So in other words, the GDP of the country, the gross domestic product of every nation, is actually a reflection or the capturing of all essential resources that are found in the country and turning them into economically valuable items which are exported to the country. It forms what we call the economy of a nation. So the resources that have been given to Zambians by nature or by God's creation, we are put on this in this part of the world, in this planet, to benefit from these resources, and therefore it is incumbent that government comes up with appropriate policies and a legal framework that allows citizens to participate. But the starting point which we're talking about being the legal framework, government has put in place a legal framework. There are appropriate policies that are there to ensure that Zambians participate in the running of their economy. What matters most is the level of participation and also the openness in terms of having the resource and the monetary aspect of how one can actually engage into these sectors, which matters most.
Okay, now as a federation, how are you raising awareness to the general citizenry out there to help them and aid them in making sure that they maximize on these opportunities that come with our natural resources through the mining sector, Mr. Chairman?
So the starting point is what you call formalization, or what you call legalization. As you're aware that the first discovery or the starting point of discovering of these gemstone mines in Zambia was around 1930. Soon after copper was discovered on the copper belt in 1906. You remember the famous story of Francois Lochner, who was an emissary of Cecil Rhodes, who was sent to Zambia to come and do mineral exploration, and entered through northwestern province. The story is well known through King Lewanika. And they started the exploration of minerals up to summer 1906 when copper was discovered on the copper belt. Fast forward in 1930, the explorations of minerals also started on the copper belt. The Ndola rural areas, that's how we actually discovered the presence of emeralds. And so this has been ongoing in other parts of the world. Today we have now gold, manganese, gemstones that are found in Eastern Province, garnets, aquamarine, tourmalines. If you go to northwestern, if you go to Southern Province, you have got amethyst deposits. So all these minerals are dotted around the country. They are decked around the whole 10 provinces of the country. But what is more important is that there must be formalization. And if you look at formalization, what you're talking about is the ability of people to be able to enter these legally. And one of the things that government did in 1984 was to ensure that they actually marked these zones where these stones are found. So it has been quite very easy for Zambia to do the formalization in the sense that each Zambian can access a license to actually mine. And if you look at the World Bank report and other who have done the studies, Zambia is highly formalized in terms of people accessing the licenses. We have a very good, robust and a very comprehensive system of actually acquiring a license. But what matters most is not just formalization. What matters is you can have a license, but are you able to do the mining? Do you have the resources? Do you have access to capital, technology, and so many other things that make it possible for you to mine? So in terms of formalization, yes, we are highly formalized, mostly in the areas of gemstones that are found on the copper belt, found in Southern Province. Where we are lacking serious formalization is now in the manganese and the gold mine. I think we'll talk about that later. But what is more important is that Zambians have access through the ministry, through Cadastre, to Cadastre office at the Ministry of Mines, so apply for these mining licenses. For those who are actually doing who are artisanal, they're given 2 years licenses, and those who are in small scale mining are given actually 10-year licenses. But what matters most that even though people have access and we have a sector that's highly formalized, the challenge still remains in terms of getting maximum value in terms of revenue generation to support the wide range of people who are engaged in the mining activities.
Okay, and how are you bridging the gap?
Of course, as a federation, we exist as more or less as an association, an umbrella body under the Ministry of Mines and Ministry of Mines. So in other words, what is happening is that we have this engagement with government, constant engagements, we have discussions. I must mention at this point that I think with the coming in of the current government, we have a very good open door policy in terms of having to talk to the minister, having to talk to the permanent secretaries on how best we can help this sector. As you know, predominantly the small-scale mining sector has suffered severe setback. In terms of looking forward, yes, the picture looks bright. But in terms of what is happening at the moment, you find that most of the small-scale miners are actually, drowned in very little levels of productions. And that affect in terms of their revenue generations, because what we have been crying for years is that there must be a recognition and a support by government to this sector in terms of accessing cheaper loans. in terms of able to access, heavy equipment machines, earth movement machines that can help to dig out these resources, because it has been a sector of picks and shovels.
Okay.
From 1930 to date, people have been using picks and shovels, and you in terms of mining, picks and shovels cannot help you. The world has advanced, technology has advanced, and having access to these advanced technologies is very critical for us to unlock the potential of the small-scale mining sector. But what we are facing right now are these inhibiting factors in terms of access to capital, and these are the things we have been engaging government to say, please help us in terms of how best can we come up with innovative financing mechanisms of how we can help this sector. There was an attempt that was made in 2001. I think during the MMD government, they came up with. There was a loan which they had procured from the East, from Europe, and that loan did not help matters, because what was happening is that more money was actually poured into workshops, training people, as opposed to empowering people in terms of production.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 40 million euro gotten from European Union. But in terms of that, the tangibility, in terms of accounting for the outcomes, long-term outcomes that where miners are able to benefit, I think we didn't see much of that. So we are trying to find ways and engaging government on coming up with funding mechanisms that can actually help in terms of pushing resources in terms of production. For instance, if you give miners earth movement machines to go and dig, help them in terms of short-term capital or working capital, giving them money to actually dig the ore from the earth, it can help in terms of pushing up the agenda of production. But what we are facing right now is that there are low levels of production because we don't have equipment, we don't have access to capital, and more importantly, we also need markets in terms of where to sell these products. So these are challenges that beset the small-scale mining sector. If we unlock these, what the president called rigidities, we are able to see the economy move forward. And for your information, the mining sector holds a lot of potential in terms of increasing employment, or in other words, overcoming the challenges of youth unemployment that we're facing today. Because if you look at the world statistics, almost about 33 million people are involved in the small mining sector. That is on the global level. If you come at the African level, 40% of that 33 million people involved in the small-scale mining sector are found in Africa. And Zambia has almost about 400 small-scale miners. And if you look at that 400 small-scale miners who are registered in this country, they support almost about 500,000 people. So the dependence on this sector is huge, and the potential to exploit it for the sake of providing job creation can also be very huge. So what is important is that there must be concerted effort to ensure that government looks at this sector with an eye of saying, let's develop the sector for the sake of job creations, for the sake of generating revenue and posting to our GDP growth.
Okay, fantastic. Now let's begin to look at how can we improve the economy, obviously with the mining sector in mind. We know, like for instance, that copper is one of the major exports, mineral exports that Zambia has, Mr. CHEWE. How then can we improve the Zambian economy using the natural resources that we have as a country?
Okay. So when you talk about the natural resources, the mining sector, the mineral ore, copper, the gemstones that are digged around the country, the industrial minerals, which like gravel, stones, which are used for constructing buildings, the potential is very huge in terms of exploiting these resources.
But maybe the question would be, why then are we not seeing the Zambian citizens, different stakeholders like yourselves, maximizing on these natural resources that we have? Because like you are putting it plainly, away from mineral resources altogether, these are natural resources, right? So how do we then begin to benefit? We have so much land, yes, but how many people are engaged in cultivating or engage in agricultural activities or maximizing on the potential that we have, as in being endowed with so much land. Why are we not seeing so many people taking advantage of these natural resources that we have, Mr. Chair?
Okay. So it boils down to one or two things.
Okay.
Number one, it's a policy framework. It's one thing to have a policy. It's one thing to implement a policy. It's one thing to account for how that policy is able to benefit the citizens of the country.
Okay.
Zambia is one of the countries that has got very nice policies that have been put in place since independence. I think we have had even countries coming here to shop, to see, to learn from us. They said Zambia has a very excellent, policy formulations. But I think the challenge has always been in terms of policy execution. How do we execute our policies? Because the challenges we are talking about, like I mentioned in the small-scale mining sector, is that yes, we have a policy framework in place, you have a mining policy in place, you've got an agricultural and food security policy in place, but how is it trickling down to the ordinary person in terms of accessing? Do you have a bank for farmers, for instance? We saw maybe Lima Bank, but how were these loans structured to ensure that people are able to get and pay back these loans? I mentioned about the aspect of the European Union coming up with a 40 million euro, grant that must be given to the small-scale miners. But how was that grant utilized to ensure that the small-scale miners benefit? So all these are policy have got structural, challenges that we need to unlock to ensure that people are able to benefit in terms of making resources or making financial resources available to people. It's not just financial resources, also empowering them in terms of their managerial skills, their business skills, able to access the markets, teach them to actually understand how to research and be able to come up with these products that can be sold in the international market. So for that, it's a vicious circle which has a lot of intriguing issues that needs to be unlocked for us to push these resources to be exploited for the people of Zambia to benefit. So in other words, what I'm trying to mention is that, yes, on one hand we've got a policy, but also we need to ensure that we need to walk the talk. If we are earmarked to say, okay, we are putting aside 40 million for the develop the mining sector, let that money goes into helping people to produce, not sending that money into having workshops, training people. At the end of the day, the resource, the money that is required for them to actually go and dig ore is not given to them. I'm not saying this is not an indictment on the current government. These has been challenges that we have inherited from the past, whereby good pronouncements are made to say we have sourced funding for this kind of venture. But you find that what goes into that sector, what people are able to benefit from there, is quite very little as compared to how much this money has been taken to other institutional arrangements that did not go direct to the beneficiaries who are supposed to be the people to invest in those activities and realize value. Because one of the things that we're crying about, Zambia, that we have got low productivity levels. Yes, it's because we're not producing the things we do. We're not producing the things that we consume. Most of the things are being imported. But if resources are being channeled into value addition in terms of our mineral resources, you find that when we export in the international market, the value will come to this country, more especially empowering our local people, our indigenous Zambians. I'll give a very good example. If you talk of the mining sector, I talked about formalization. 96% of those who own mining licenses are Zambians, and only 94%, sorry, and 6% is owned by the foreigners. But who are more productive in terms of producing? It is actually the 6% who are the foreigners, as opposed to the 96% who are wallowing into poverty. You get the point? So the focus should be pushing resources into these 96% Zambians who are in this sector, so they can actually begin to benefit by empowering them. Number one, giving them, they have cheap access to loans, they're trained on how to manage the mining sector. Number three, technologies, mentioned market access, so many things that are required for them to actually push forward. So there should be a deliberate policy framework, yes, Mr. Chew. Yes, there must be a deliberate policy to ensure that when we are talking about empowering a sector, resources must be seen to be channeled to the people who are going to produce, sell, and bring revenue in the country, so that we can post to the growth of our economy and also stabilize our currency. Okay.
Dear viewers, you can come through and ask questions to Mr. Fabian CHEWE, who's here with us this particular afternoon as we look at the status of the economy and the mining sector in Zambia. How do we maximize from our natural resources? How do we improve our economy? And also, how can you, the citizen out there, be empowered through the mining sector? Now, Mr. CHEWE, there has been a concern from different sectors of society that getting a mining license, people are made rather to pay exorbitant prices, and for an ordinary Zambian, they can't afford. As a result, they stay away from engaging into mining activities. Maybe I would like you to speak a little bit more on that.
No, it's a right question that you've asked, and I think this is one of the things that we're having this constructive engagement and discussion with the government on how best we can actually reduce the cost of doing business. Because you are talking of a person who has discovered minerals in his area or in his farm, and he wants to formalize so that he becomes the owner of that resource, which is found in a place where God has positioned him. But because of these challenges, the cost of acquiring that mine, the cost of formalization is expensive. You can't keep it for him. Eventually, you find that that mine is taken over by other people, or other people who have got money come to actually overtake him or her. The question we're talking about is, number one, we have challenges in terms of ZEMA, Zambia Environmental Management Agency. Okay. Because you can't have a mining license without having a ZEMA report. And it costs an average Zambians almost about maybe 13 to 40,000. It's a lot of money that is required in terms of paying.
To have that report.
To have that report, yes. So, because what I'm talking about is we are paying. But you must also pay a consultant to do that report. Yet some of a person probably who is average education level, maybe is just a grade 12 or grade 9, doesn't know how to come up with an EPB.
Even those that are
to do the study. Even
those
who are educated. Yeah, of course, there are various skill set that person has.
Exactly.
I'm already competent enough to come up with that report, that ZEMA report, that will lead to be added as a qualification for me to acquire the mine. And so I need to hire an expert. I need to hire someone who can actually do that. And the consultant is very expensive. Not only that, in terms of you're paying for that mining license, you have to also do other studies in terms of coming up with a mining plan. Other people are not competent enough to do the mining plan. You have to get an engineer who can actually help you, and you have to pay consultants in terms of all this. So there are a lot of added costs such that they make it very prohibitive for a person who wants to acquire the mine to actually go in that direction. Okay. So what we are saying is that government should be able to provide a smooth way of acquiring these mines. At the end of the day, if you identify potential into something that this thing is going to produce, make it easier as a government to ensure that people are able to access these mines without costly processes that can lead to people failing to actually even access those mines. So we are calling upon government, and we have been having those constructive discussions with government. So please help us in terms of, there are so many requirements that are required for someone to access the mines. If you can ease the process and reduce some of these costs, it will become easy for people to acquire the mines. So it's one of the areas that I think we are having these constructive discussions, and I'm glad that you asked that question, because it's one of the things that we are constantly engaging government on, and we're hoping that we may have favorable outcome on how we move. In 2020, we had a similar situation where there was a 15% export slapped on the export of gemstones. Okay. And we say you can't slap 15% on the export of gemstones, because now you're adding to the production cost. Apart from the mineral royalty tax a person is supposed to pay, because mineral royalty tax is a productive cost, because a person who is just starting mining cannot afford. Number one, you have put your money into producing that stone. The cost of producing added with a 15% of export makes it very easy and uncompetitive in the international market. Become very uncompetitive, because there are other countries in the region who do not even put a tax. Government listened to us and they removed the 15%. So we're also hoping that some of these challenges that the small-scale miners are facing, government can actually help us ensure that we unlock. These are some of the rigidities that are making it difficult for us to break through in this sector.
Okay. Before we allow our viewers to begin to come through and contribute, I can see we have a number of calls that we've missed. Let me come to how citizens can be empowered through the mining sector, Mr. CHEWE. I know you've touched on one or two things, but in detail, how can citizens begin to be empowered through the mining sector?
Number one, the first thing that needs to be done, first and foremost, make it cheaper for people to acquire a mining license. That's a starting point.
Okay.
These are citizens who are domiciled in Zambia. When the fruits, the low-hanging fruits that are in the mining sector, begin to bear, the tree of a long-hanging fruit begin to bear, the foreign exchange will not be externalized. It will come and sit in the Bank of Zambia and add to the posting of our GDP. At the same time, it will also raise our revenue profile and reduce poverty. Also create employment. So the first thing is make it easier for people to access licenses. Number two, government should come up with financing mechanisms. We require government support in terms of helping people to acquire cheaper loans. You see, you are able to provide what do you call it, FSSMA, food which is fertilizer support program to the mining sector. It's the same thing, the same concept of supporting the agricultural sector in terms of FSSMA. It's the same thing that can also be translated into supporting the mining sector in terms of injecting capital in those mines. Because at the end of the day, you have hope that when they produce, they'll be able to pay back into the government treasury. So number one, we need government to come up with innovative financing mechanisms. How best can we finance this sector? Number three, be able to help in terms of capital formation. You have the Zambia National Service. They have those caterpillars, those machines that can help. There can be an agreement that government can go into an agreement through the Zambia National.
It is a government wing after all.
Yes, we can come up with a mechanism of how can we identify those mining that are promising, because for everyone to receive a mining license, there's what we compute what are called mineral rights. Now, what the technology has now advanced in the world, whereby I can even actually shoot there some coordinates there. The satellite can pick coordinates on that particular property and be able to calculate how much deposit of gold is there, how much deposit of emerald is there, how much deposit of amethyst is there, and compute. So okay, there are almost about 14 million carats. 14 million carats that are produced here gives you the calculation of your mineral rights. And be able to go to a bank and do a bankable documents and get the loans from the bank. But these banks that we have at the moment cannot give you that loan. So there's need for government to come up with a financial mechanism to help these small-scale miners to access loans, more especially those mines that are promising, can produce. They need to be supported. Because the job creation we're talking about, the job creation agenda we're talking about, is tied to this sector. If we overlook this sector, it will be difficult for us to fight the challenges of youth unemployment. So it's one of the sectors that promises in those areas. So I've mentioned number one, I've talked about issues of easing licenses. Number two, ensuring that we provide financing mechanism. Number three, help in terms of equipment, whereby we can go into a joint agreement with government agencies.
Just kindly hold your thought, Mr. CHEWE. We do have a caller 30 minutes into the program. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Chileshe.
Mr. Chileshe, thank you so much for joining us. We are discussing how do you benefit from the natural resources that Zambia has, number one. How do we improve the economy of Zambia, number two. Number three, how can citizens be empowered from the mining sector?
Thank you so much, Joe. To start with, it's only that in many African countries, We have made English to be compulsory instead of agriculture science. That's why one was saying we speak good English without food. So I think when it comes to mining sector, even me, Joe, here, I don't know how I can benefit from these natural resources because we have, or the government or whoever have got that power, we have not see how people can begin to appreciate that indeed in Zambia we have copper, we have got the emerald, we have got like this. So coming to your question, I think the government needed to step ahead in ensuring that we have a lot of sensitization on how people can begin to appreciate the natural resources that we have. When you talk of, for instance, maybe sojilite, the question will be in Luapula. The question will be how the people of Luapula has benefited from that mineral resources. You find that still we are even up to today we are counting Luapula as the poorest province. Why is it like that? Okay, so we have not stepped ahead in ensuring that we empower citizens first with knowledge on how we need to benefit from these resources. So from my point of understanding, I think we need to find a way on how we can be educated, number one, because when you have knowledge about something, even from Kasama, you can now say, okay, let me go to Copper Belt because I have written knowledge on what I can do to benefit from the natural resources.
Okay.
Yes. So basically, we need to have more of the sensitization, more of the education programs from the mining sector, from the government, so that people begin to understand to say, if we sell this at this much, how much is it supposed to go to the community?
Okay.
When you go to Kalumbila, you find that the short distance of Kalumbila is England, but what about move about a kilometer, 7 kilometers, 10 kilometers away from those that are benefiting from the mine sector? You just shake your head.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chileshe, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you so much. I think we needed to appreciate you as Camnet TV for bringing those programs rather than every day, every week. People are just being with the politics, but we are leaving out things that can help this country and reduce poverty.
Okay, thank you so much for those kind words, Mr. Chileshe. Thank you for coming through.
Sure.
Okay, so that's Mr. Chileshe from within Lusaka Garden coming through and adding a voice to our discussion this afternoon. Mr. Chileshe's concerns, dissemination of information and obviously sensitization and how you, the key stakeholders, can help the general public out there in these mineral-endowed provinces to actually know what they have. But before maybe you even react to that, we do have a caller. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Michael.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
Banda Sinda.
Mr. Banda from Sinda. Kamban Babanda. Okay. Bakumawa, we've lost you. Please, Babanda, to man footing. Before you even react to that, I think we do have a text here, Mr. CHEWE, and it says the only way minerals are a property of the state and only the state should mine on behalf of the nation. There is only one way minerals are a property of the state and only the state should mine on behalf of the nation. Thank you so much for that text. However, it's not indicating where it's coming from. Maybe you can react to those two.
Okay, let me start with the one that you remind of the one. Only the state can mine, because the state.
Yes, because the state should mine on behalf of the nation.
Okay, so that means now we're trying to we're coming back to the situation where the economy becomes state owned.
Okay.
And you saw the failure of socialism, where bread has to be baked by the state, a shirt has to be made by the state, the shoes you wear and my wear, the state has to make our shoes, the state has to provide time we are going to eat and the time we are going to sleep. So in other words, you are surrendering the power to the state, but who is the state? The state is us, the citizens. So citizen participation in the running of the economy is what drives the economic development. There are a lot of studies that have shown that economies that have actually excelled are economies where there's been so much encouragement of private citizenship in terms of owning property and resources. And the American economy testifies to that premise. So to allege and to say that the minerals must be owned by the state and mined by the state, we are surrendering our thinking, we are surrendering our innovative capabilities, our cognitive and ingenuity of thought to actually be able to participate in the running of the economy. At the end of the day, the citizens are supposed to contribute to the country and be able to produce more and be able to share, and the government is able to raise taxes from what we are producing, and that's how we benefit in terms of road construction and other social amenities. So I'm not agree with that premise. Okay. I think citizen participation is a way to go, and it has proved time and again that nations that have succeeded are nations where citizens have been allowed to participate in the running of their economies.
Okay, we do have another caller here. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
I'm Chisha calling from Chipata.
Okay, Mr. Chisha from Chipata, your contribution.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. FABIAN CHEWE for having come over such a program.
Okay.
And also the moderator yourself.
Thank you, sir.
To take up such kind of a task. Zambia is a blessed nation with a lot of minerals around. And I don't know why a country of this nature should be always wallowing in poverty when we have so many resources, water, everything you can think of. The mineral thing, I've been talking about this thing. I think at one point I mentioned when they were presenting a budget at one point, I think should be in 2018 somewhere there.
Okay.
Where I say the problem of mining is that we do mining, but we don't add value whatever we are mining. There is no value addition. We always sell or export the raw materials. Yet we have so many people in this country that are called educated in such an area whereby we can be adding certain values. Why should we be up to this time be exporting copper, for example, instead of selling, cables of copper and other products that can come from copper? But we still exporting copper. It's not sitting well to us. And at the same time, like Mr. CHEWE said, the policies should always come from the government. That would encourage Zambians to actually do the mining without challenges. I went to China, where I found the people doing mining on the gold mining. There is a lot of gold mining around in Chinga province, which is going on up to today, and the people have taken to themselves to do that mining, but there is no proper support of the government. Instead, the government has been bringing in some foreigners to intimidate the Zambian people who are actually trying to survive on their own. And yet, I was thinking, that gold which is being mined by our own people in Muchinga can be bought by the government itself and put to the government treasury. For example, you get that gold, the government starts buying that gold bring down the dollar watch issues that we are facing up to today. If you look at the issue of, for example, power cuts today, we have minerals called the uranium, for example. Uranium can always give us enough power, more than even hydro. Why is the government not taking time to look at such kind of things and give the chance to people who do understand some of those things? So that we don't have to rely always on hydro power. We can use other means to produce power, and the country of this nature, which is sitting on also many resources, cannot be going through such kind of suffering. We are suffering because there are no proper deliberate policies, like Mr. F.S.M.A.Z said, which are in support for the locals. Instead, you will find that they would support the foreigner and give them a lot of chance to do whatever they're supposed to do, and give them a bigger space of land without recognizing that Zambians also do exist and they need such kind of a thing. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chisha, for coming through. We do appreciate you. Mr. Fabian, CHEWE, you have heard it for yourselves, foreign nationals being given huge chunks of land to engage in mining activities. Government also, why can't it come up with a deliberate policy to buy gold from these